Everything now is being recorded on a new track. On my end.
There's a band called My Dinosaur Life.
Is there?
It seems new-ish because this guy is wearing a BoJack Horseman shirt. And it says forthcoming EP.
I would be willing to bet that they named themselves after the album.
Hey, look at this. My Dinosaur Life is a 5-piece pop-punk band hailing from Cremona, a small town in...
Heavily influenced by bands such as Motion City Soundtrack, the Ataris, and the Wonder Years. So, I don't know. Maybe. Could be. Who knows?
Be.
Do you know the story behind the album title?
He was talking about it in the MLB Fan Cave, but then I just glazed over the actual... Did he say it was like a bastardization of something?
Yeah, so there's... man, I forget what the movie is. I literally... This was said in, like, a live video from, like, a show they did in a Florida record store or something. I get real deep. I've gotten real deep on Motion City Soundtrack. But in some movie, somebody says... like, I'm living my dragon life, or something like that. And it's like a silly thing, but it's the way I've been for years. Oh, Jesus. God damn it.
What?
It's the way I've been for years. It's a silly thing that someone says in some reference to something. I also just Googled it. I heard you Googling it. I also just Googled it and could not find it. But so he had misremembered the quote and had been quoting that forever, but as My Dinosaur Life, and so it just became the title of the album.
It's been a good year, a good new beginning. I'm through with the old school, so let's commence the winning. I've been a good little worker bee. I deserve a gold star.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Motion City Podcast, the only Motion City Soundtrack podcast, probably. I've looked, haven't found any. Definitely the only one that goes through every Motion City Soundtrack song, week by week, song by song, in no particular order. I am one of your guides through this journey of music. I'm Naim Siddiqui. You might know me better on the internet as Kuhan. Joining me is my co-host through this journey, Jacob Walden. How's it going, Jake?
Good, I'm excited.
Yeah, I just want to say, I don't think so Jake and I have talked about Motion City Soundtrack forever, where it's your number one band as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, by listens, especially lately, it is all I listen to.
They've been my number one band for the better part of the last 10 years. And so like we just talk about them all the time. And one day, if you happen to think this format sounds familiar, it's because there's a podcast called Blink 155 where they talk about every Blink 182 song. And I was like, that's a good concept. Let's steal that. And I just messaged Jake, hey, let's do a podcast where we just talk about every single Motion City Soundtrack song one by one. And he goes, this but unironically. I'm like, cool, we're doing it.
Yeah, they're the only band I've listened to for as long as I have. I listened to Coldplay about the same time that I'd started listening to Motion City Soundtrack. I listened to Coldplay, and I really like Coldplay, but then Coldplay didn't stay good like I feel Motion City Soundtrack has. I
mean, yeah, you're not wrong. I compare Coldplay to Maroon 5. Like Maroon 5 is the 10 years later version of Coldplay. In that they used to be a rock band, and now they're not.
Like, I listened to Viva La Vida recently, Viva La Vida and Death and All His Friends, the full album. And Viva La Vida still seems like the best song they ever done, but on that album it feels like they started falling off. And then today I'm listening through Panic Stations and everything else. But but the album I was doing full today was Panic Stations. And I was just struck by like all of these songs of this album, and I know if I put on another album, I'd be like, oh yeah, all of these, like, just jamming every time I listen to an album.
Yeah. I don't think Motion City Soundtrack put out a bad album. I think Go is undoubtedly their least good, but I don't think it's a bad album, and I'm very happy. I think there are less good songs, but like 99, like almost all of the not less good songs are like B-sides that I've rarely ever listened to, so it works out. Today's song though is Worker Bee from the album My Dinosaur Life, the first track off of the fourth album. So it's kind of like it's our first episode, and it's the first track off of their major record label debut. So My Dinosaur Life was the first and only album that was on Columbia/Sony Records, and then that sort of didn't work out, and they left the record label, which is interesting to me. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting. First, it's interesting that this was the major record label debut, because if in a vacuum, if I did not know that, I would think Even If It Kills Me was their major record label debut. Just because it's way poppier, and Commit This to Memory was such a success that it would make sense that they would join a major label between the big success and then the one that was super poppy. But they didn't. They joined before this album, and then left after this album.
I was reading a review of the album, and it said the person was speculating that it would be their breakout, or could be their breakout, which I guess they say every time. But yeah, it does seem like the most friendly to airplay.
I feel like I like this album, but I feel like Even If It Kills Me is the most friendly to airplay. Broken Heart, This Is For Real, like those just sound like pop songs.
I guess I'm saying that from the like how rocking some of the songs of this album feel like Worker Bee. Just not that Worker Bee feels like a radio song, but more like Pulp Fiction, Disappear, Hysteria. All those feel like.
Yeah, I guess. Well, because around this time, their peers, who I'd say like Fall Out Boy, who they initially toured with, and Patrick Stump has vocals on Everything's All Right, and Justin Pierre has vocals on Chicago So 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually right around the time that they broke up, before getting back together. But what did they have? What album did they release? Folie à Deux was the one that they had released most recently before this, which had a bunch of songs that I don't know. So maybe I shouldn't have brought it up, because I literally have no idea. I've never heard any of these Fall Out Boy songs.
Yeah, I listened to the ones that were popular when they were being played 15 years ago, and nothing at length.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I don't know. It feels like they got rockier. Like this song is a little bit. I feel like this album is a little bit punkier. Maybe not this song in particular, but this album is a little bit more into the emo genre, whereas the emo bands were starting to sort of veer away from emo. What did My Chemical Romance put out around this time? Did they also break up around this time? No. They put out Danger Days, which had other songs I've never heard of, but which Wikipedia classifies as pop punk, power pop, pop rock, punk rock. So like I feel like emo bands are starting to veer away from emo, and Motion City Soundtrack sort of veered back into it. Again, we're not talking about the album as an album necessarily, and those shouldn't be, but like Disappear, Delirium, Hysteria, like those are a little emo-er. They're a little bit more in the vein of LG Fuad, which is like an emo anthem. Like Yeah, like I feel like those songs would fit well with a song like Teenagers from My Chemical Romance, as opposed to I don't know, something from the first, or the like the middle couple of Blink-182 albums. What I did think about this record was that it felt similar to me to Blink-182's Untitled album from 2003, which was the one right before they broke up, coincidentally. And like it seems like they veered. Like the last album was super poppy and seemed made for radio play, and then this one just sort of got a little bit rougher, which is not a bad thing. It just seemed to get rougher. And I think it worked for Blink, and I think it worked for Motion City Soundtrack. That's a lot of people's favorite Blink album. But I don't know. What do you think?
For a while, My Dinosaur Life was the album I listened to the most, and that's changed. I mean, now I'm all over the place, but I wouldn't have called it at any point my favorite album. I still wouldn't, but I do. I think it's, for me, the easiest to listen to. And I don't describe that other than it's just I like kind of the constant rock. Yeah, it's the consistent beat of the song. Worker Bee into A Life Less Ordinary into Her Would Destroy My Planet into, I think it's Disappear is fourth on the album.
Yeah, Disappear's fourth.
And I like the feeling of momentum.
Yeah.
And it all starts with Worker Bee.
With Worker Bee. Which does, like, I think Worker Bee is a great start to the album. I can't imagine anything else starting the album, which is actually, it's funny because the record, the second side of the record starts with Stand Too Close. And I actually, I'm not a huge fan of Stand Too Close as the starter of side B of the record. I think History Lesson would actually have been obviously you're limited by what you can put on what side of the record, but I think History Lesson flows so well into Stand Too Close as well that I kind of wish that was the first track on side B instead of ending there. And then anyway, but Worker Bee, I think it's a great start to the album. I mean, it's all about beginning, so it sort of starts it actually. So in the videos that they put out about each track, which they put out when the album was coming out, Justin compared it to Attractive Today, saying like it was, he knew when he wrote it that it was going to start the album. I think, I don't know if he says in the video it gets to the point, but that's certainly what he's trying to get at, which is that I remember counting, or I counted the amount of time for like musical breaks for melody breaks in the song and lyrics, and it's like almost entirely just singing. Yeah. Well, it's 2.5 minutes, right? So like that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And
2:25. Yeah.
And I mentioned Blink-182 a couple of times. Mark Hoppus of Blink-182 produced this album. He also produced Commit This to Memory. But I think that's something Blink did a lot, was they'd get in, it's like the 2-minute song, and that's it. Like, they're like, I guess sort of like a Leave 'Em Wanting More type thing, which is interesting because like Motion City Soundtrack does a lot of longer songs. Time Turned Fragile, one of my favorite songs, is over 4 minutes long. And Hold Me Down, Hold Me Down ends like a minute before it ends, but like it does go on like 5 minutes, I think.
Yeah, the weekends on My Dinosaur Life, the last song is just, it's not just 5 minutes, it's 4:48. Yeah,
which is, I think does something similar to, it's been a little while since I've listened to The Weekends, but I think it does something similar to Hold Me Down, where it just like the song ends and then there's just like a big sort of like continuation of the ending. Mm-hmm. So like you're just sort of like sitting with the album a little longer, which is interesting. Attractive Today, by the way, also was 1:42.
Yeah. Is that the shortest?
I think so. Besides like covers and stuff. But I think usually they start albums off with short songs. I think Circuits and Wires might be the longest at 3 minutes 7 seconds. Anything at all is 2 minutes 40. Fell in Love Without You is 2:31. Cambridge, I think, is 2:30. So like they always start with a short song, which is interesting. I don't know if that's intentional or just a coincidence.
Just in the video, he wants to get the energy high at the beginning.
Yeah, which makes sense.
That's always what they want to do. Then it's the same with Panic Stations with TKO.
Anything at all is the first track.
Is it?
TKO is the second track. Yeah, TKO is 3.5.
Yeah.
Which and TKO isn't. I don't think TKO is super energetic.
I think he is TKO.
I like TKO, but when I heard that as a single, I was like, oh, is this what they're doing? I think it works fine on the album, and like I got used to it, but like I was like, it felt slow. Anyway, so which is funny because I read a review of this album from the time that said like this album starts slow, starting with Worker Bee, and then Life Less Ordinary, and then her words all felt slow until you get to Disappear, and I was like, really? Like none of those songs really feel that slow to me. I don't know. I don't get.
With a Life Less Ordinary. A Life Less Ordinary does feel like a tone shift.
A little bit, yeah, and that actually also feels a little poppier than the rest of the songs. Actually, so just by sheer coincidence, I picked the song this week, and Jake's gonna pick the song next week. But I just like by complete coincidence, I realized that Worker Bee is the first Motion City soundtrack song I ever heard. Well, maybe not the first I ever heard. The first I ever heard was actually Everything Is All Right because it was on the Bad News Bears soundtrack, but I didn't know that at the time. I actually didn't know it was on the Bad News Bears soundtrack until like a month and a half ago when for some reason all the Motion City soundtrack songs went off of Google Play Music. And that's the only place I could find it was the Bad News Bears soundtrack. And then they came back like a week and a half later. It's really weird. So turns out I'd heard Motion City soundtrack when I was 13, but I didn't become a fan until this album. This album was reviewed on a music podcast that I listened to. That I listened to because it was hosted by the host of a Dragon Ball Z podcast that I still listen to. The music podcast doesn't exist anymore. But they reviewed this album because he was a big fan of Motion City soundtrack. So when the like album review starts, it starts with Worker Bee. So Worker Bee happens to be the first Motion City soundtrack song I ever heard, and they were actually disappointed by the album. They were they thought it wasn't that. They thought it was safe, actually. They thought they played everything safe, which is really interesting to me because I didn't think that at all. I thought this was
I don't know. I think like I'm not a fan. I mean I would say I like it the least of History Lesson, but History Lesson feels like the most disjointed, different. Like it feels like it stands in stark contrast with every other song on the album, and I don't know of an album that has a song like that just is like it feels like from the beginning of History Lesson it's
they're
trying something completely different.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think Together We'll Ring in the New Year on Commit This to Memory is just like there's the whole rest of the album and it's all like high energy, and then Together We'll Ring in the New Year is just Justin and guitars. Like there's no drums on that song, there's no bass on that song, there's no synth on that song. It's just Justin and guitar. I don't know. I mean, because I always felt like, and I like that, like, and I like that it's like slows down before you get to Hangman. Like I like that on Commit This to Memory, but I don't know that's because History Lesson. You know, the band joins in. It just starts off with this little acoustic thing. But I agree. It is definitely a little different than everything else on the album. But Worker Bee, which is what we're talking about. What was I going to say? Oh, so in that video, Josh says, so he says that the song has a bit of everything. Like it's high energy and it has the guitars and it's some guitars alone and it has Justin blah 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 and drum stuff. And then he says also the keyboard synthy thing, which is the Moog synth, which you've been in this band for over 10 years, Josh. Yeah, I think you know what it's called. But also I don't hear any synth in this song at all. Like unless I'm missing something. Did you hear any synth?
I'm trying to. I don't. Now, like if I listen through it now and I'm looking for it, I might deceive myself into thinking I hear it. But
I was specifically
so much of the song just.
Yeah. Well, I was specifically looking for it because we've discussed what we think makes a great Motion City soundtrack song, and I think the three main elements are Justin, and that's the singing and the lyrics, the drums, and I think we'll talk about it when we get to Panic Stations. I think Claudio did an admirable job, but I just don't think he's good of a drum songwriter as Tony is. And then the synth. And, I think there are great Motion City soundtrack songs that don't have very much synth. LG Fuad only has like a little bit of synth at the very end. But like, so I like, listening to this song with an ear for this, I was listening for the synth and I just like, maybe I just missed it. Maybe it was just like bedded in there, which is funny because actually that's something they mentioned on the podcast as well, was that this whole album didn't have all that much synth. I know Her Words has a decent amount of synth, and there's some others elsewhere, but also like Her Words, there's big chunks of Her Words Destroy My Planet where because they play that song live a lot, and there's big chunks of that song where Jesse Johnson, the synth player, is just playing cowbell and not the synth. Yes. So
whacking
it's
the shit out of it.
Yeah, whacking the shit, and he's great. Like I think the band would maybe be like 2/3 as enjoyable live if he wasn't just out there fucking hyping the shit out of everything. It's the best. Oh man, I can't wait till we get to My Favorite Accident because we're gonna talk about Moog stands. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this album in general, but specifically
the song in my head, which is not perfect recreation, but I can't play synth in it.
Right, and there's specific points that I know that there's like guitar parts that I'm like, these can be synth parts. Like these could be really really sick synth parts, and I don't know why I'm not hearing any synth. Like it could just be bedded in there somewhere.
So that's the video interview of it. Maybe they're talking about a different version of it, like the non-master.
Maybe it's possible.
But I feel like that song would be with the guitar still in there, but with synth in there. I feel like the song would have been even better.
Right. I mean, I'm not saying take out all the guitars, but there's multiple guitar parts that I'm like, you could either drop this for a synth part or add a synth part in there. Because I think that's part of what sets Motion City soundtrack apart, and part yeah, like is obviously I think the vocals and the songwriting sets them apart. But the synth is something that like a lot of bands don't do. Like, it's
mm-hmm.
I don't know, and it
makes it's responsible for so much pop and so much of the auditory pop.
Yeah, which is funny because like it's also funny because I don't know. I think I'm slightly more disappointed knowing that Josh said it has the keyboard synthy thing, because if I'm not hearing the keyboard synthy thing, that means there was unless he just got mixed up, that means there was a keyboard synth part recorded and then just like didn't make it in. And by the way, even on the video, Jesse's not in the video at all. Matt's in there, Justin's in there, Josh is in there, Tony's in there. Jesse is not in the video. Mm-hmm. I'm sure he's in some of the other ones. I don't know. I haven't seen all of them.
Yeah.
But it's like. Or maybe he was, sick or busy that day. I have no idea. But like, he's not in any of those videos, and it's like, oh, and it's funny because and we'll talk about the alternate versions later.
How many of those videos have you watched?
I've only watched the Worker Bee one. I might watch the rest of them later. I didn't even know they were a thing. Maybe I did. Maybe I'd seen one of them before. But as far as I remember, I didn't know they were a thing until yesterday when I watched that video. But I forgot what I was going to say now. It doesn't matter. Do you have a? We're going to talk about the alternate versions later.
I'm going through song by song and on my Dinosaur Life, and I'm just trying to think of specific moments of synth usage. I think this might just be this.
I think that on her words, that's a synth.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just doing a stunning job of sounding like whistling. Is that the?
Well, it's funny too because they didn't do it in the most recent tour, because I saw them in Chicago on New Year's Eve, but when they have there's a video of a full live performance professionally shot that they did in Sydney, I think on the My Dinosaur Life. No, it was on the Go tour because they played some Go songs. So it would have been 2012, 2013. And when they play her words, like you can clearly hear, I don't know, I assume it's Matt and Josh and Tony just singing like the da 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 da, like just singing it instead of like somebody playing it. So I don't know if it's because Jesse's busy whacking that cowbell, but or if it's just like additional. But they didn't do like. Because I sang along to it in Chicago, but it wasn't like they were doing that on stage. So I don't know if they, if Jesse was just playing the synth on it or not. And I think there's definitely some synth on AT-AT track 9. But yeah, like I think this was like this whole album was a little low in synth. Does Pulp Fiction have any synth? I really like Pulp Fiction. I'd be upset if it didn't have any synth. But I was going to say, so we're going to talk about the alternate versions later, but...
I think Pulp Fiction does have it at the beginning. Or is that just the keyboard? Or is the keyboard the Moog?
Well, the keyboard and the synth, I mean, that's not the exact same, obviously, but it's the same player. But it might just be the synthing a keyboard, because he doesn't have like a full keyboard.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the beginning of Pulp Fiction.
Yeah. Oh, but like I said, so in the alternate version that's on the deluxe edition, like there's some xylophone and some other stuff, and like I feel like Jesse's got more to do on the alternate version than he does on the main version. Like I feel bad. Like there seems to be so much more of other instrumentation on the alternate version, but the alternate version is also, I mean, it's acoustic more than just alternate, and it's a good arrangement. But did you find anything else on your deep dives?
I'm just reading through these songs. As far as Worker Bee goes, no. The video you had was that's the only information that seems to be out about the actual lyrics in the song. And the video, I don't even think talks much about the composition besides saying that it's like energetic.
There was
and the keyboardy synth that's not there.
There was an interview with Alternative Press where Justin said the basic outline of the song came to him one night while he was wandering around his apartment with an acoustic guitar, wrote almost all the words in one sitting, and he said, it seemed to me the song was destined to be the opening track. Its purpose was to pick up where Even If It Kills Me ended and set out an outline or course of what is yet to come. I went through a rough patch or two, but came out okay on the other side. This song is about staying positive. To be self-congratulatory defeats any act of accomplishment. Therefore, I had to. It made me laugh. Try as I might to be serious, I cannot resist the tongue in cheek. Which is, it's interesting too, because this was the first album after Justin got sober. He got sober on he counts his sober date as like January 2nd or 3rd, 2010. And My Dinosaur Life came out January 19th, 2010. So I think he relapsed. But like essentially this whole album was written sober. I also found the film. It was called American Teen, a 2008 documentary film. That's probably why I couldn't find it on Google.
Which is that?
The My Dragon Life quote is from a 2008 film called American Teen. But yeah, so I think that's part of it too, is that he's coming back from being sober, and so that's the sort of accomplishment that he's saying. It's been a good year, a good new beginning, right? Is the new beginning of kicking alcohol and drugs.
In the video, and while he does sound optimistic, at the same time there does seem to be some sarcasm there. That's what I picked up. That's what it seemed to me like it picked up on, which was like, yeah, recognizing good of sobriety, or at least not of alcoholism, and kind of the bad of.
Well, even so, I mean, I think I didn't even think about it in this context until right now, when I totally should have. But Gone Are the Glad Hands, the Black Holes and Liars, the Constant Companions, Obnoxious Suppliers. Like, that's seems pretty clear. It went from no good to fucked up and over, a total distortion of lifelong disorders. I don't know. And then even like now that old wounds are resurfacing too, that might even just be about like the relapse that happened. And he's like toss that all aside. Let's fuck it up. Like, we're done. Let's I don't know.
It feels so like optimistic, but also like almost like dark comedy.
Well, and I feel like that's a lot of the songwriting of Motion City, right? Like, is everything is all right. Tell me that you're all right. Everything is all right. And this whole song's about anxiety, right? Like, I don't know. I feel like that's what they do. One interesting thing about this album is that I don't think I mentioned. So Tony in that video joked that it wasn't like it's funny that the song starts with "It's been a good year, a good new beginning," because on the first of that year of 2009, he broke his arm. And the whole album, like, they tracked the whole album with a drum machine until he recovered. And that's actually why they were able to get Mark Hoppus, because I think he was on tour or something when they first started recording. But then he broke his arm, and so while they were waiting for him to recover, they had to hold off on recording the album, and then Hoppus became available. Or something like that. But do you I don't know, do you notice in any way this song being affected by the drums coming in last? No.
I don't. Well, you asked me that, and I just began playing the song in my head. I don't. When listening to the songs, I don't feel like I specific thing about when something comes in, like timing wise. So in this case,
well, I don't think they come in
everything at once.
Yeah, I don't know about the recording the coming in last, but like, so I don't know. Do you feel like you notice the impact of, because a lot of times obviously drums get recorded first because that's the beat.
Well, in this for Worker Bee, since it starts with him just singing, I just felt like that was the stylistic choice, the production choice to begin it with him just singing rather than like attributable to a lack of a drummer.
Well, I commit this to memory. It starts that way too. Right, Attracted Today is just singing guitar until everyone comes in. So that makes sense. I don't think that. I just mean like the drums coming in last in the recording, if that happens to like being recorded last, if I don't know if that happens to come through, or I guess you just didn't even notice it.
Well, now that you say that, I feel like it kind of does. If it does feel a little bit like the drums are an afterthought, feels critical, or it feels maybe like a snipe, but it does kind of feel like drums are an oversight in the song and the way it's played. Because talking about the acoustic version, while I do prefer the album version to it, I do like the alternate version of it, and in both cases it seems like the Well, especially in the acoustics, since the drums aren't there. Or is he like hitting a?
I think there's
box?
some like tambourine. So I know definitely in like some of the, because there's three different acoustic arrangements, and we'll talk about those in a minute. But I forget what the box, the one that they did at Warp Tour. There's the box that you sit on.
Yeah.
But I forget what it's called.
Was that
Cajon? It's called a cajon.
What about? Did they do the same thing at the MLB Fan Cave? Where
not the fan cave. I think it was just
because I don't think Tony was. I don't.
Yeah, no. The fan cave was the same as all of the Macy's tours, which is a real thing that happened. Which was it was Justin and Josh and Matt. So just it was two guitars and singing. I don't know if Matt's playing a bass. Let me double check. I think he's playing it's two guitars. Matt's not playing an acoustic bass, which is interesting because as someone who plays guitar, not well, but as someone who plays guitar, I would think if I'm playing guitar on stage that I would hate to like just be singing and not have a guitar if I'm used to playing the guitar. But
yeah, that's what he talks about. That's what Justin talks about is. I'm used to doing something up here.
Yeah, like his hands are just like doing nothing. Yeah. I can't believe you didn't come up with cajon. You speak Spanish. It just means box.
I don't. I read Spanish.
Anyway, so yeah, I guess if you don't have anything else, we can talk about the alt versions. So we would normally, again, stealing our format as much as we can from Blink-155, normally talk about the alternative, we'll talk about like covers and stuff, but there are virtually no covers of this online, and all the covers are just like a white guy with an acoustic guitar, or a white girl with a ukulele, or
white guy with a ukulele,
or a white guy with a ukulele, or a white girl with an acoustic guitar, or the one that's a black guy with an electric guitar. And like some are better than others, as ever. But in general,
there's no full video of like a full band,
or even like a full arrangement. It's all like one person in front of a camera. Like there's not like they didn't plug into a sound, like they didn't record it. It's just like them in front of their camera, which I don't want to knock that. That's all I do on Instagram. It's literally the only thing I do on Instagram is post videos of me in front of my phone camera playing acoustic guitar. But there's really not much to listen to or pick apart there. The one cover that does exist is the Sparrow Sleeps cover on the album Commit This to Memory. And I am a big Sparrow Sleeps fan, which is a weird thing, I guess, to say. But Sparrow Sleeps is, I think, two guys, or it might just be one guy doing the music and one guy doing the arrangement or something like that. But they do lullaby covers of songs. So you might have seen like Rock-a-Bye Baby or Twinkle Twinkle Little Rock Star. So Sparrow Sleeps is that, except exclusively for pop punk music, which is great because that's my jam. So this is the Sparrow Sleeps cover of Worker Bee. All right, that's enough of that.
I was
Jesus.
telling you the first time I listened to it, I was so hoping it would break into the
just the
British nanny.
Yeah.
I'm sure that too, but no, like the British nanny singing.
Oh,
like very calmly.
Yeah. By the way, so did I already say I'm a big fan of Sparrow Sleeps? I did. I listen to this stuff to sleep all the time. Worker Bee has 32 plays. For me, their cover of Worker Bee, which I believe is more than I have for the actual Worker Bee. I have 30 for the actual Worker Bee and 32 for the Sparrow Sleeps cover. That's really funny. But I don't know. Did you listen to the whole thing?
Of the Sparrow Sleeps?
Yeah.
No.
I think it's one of the lesser ones of the ones they did on here, which is just, I mean, that's going to happen. I think it's kind of an energetic song, and to lullabyify it, you have to sort of de-energize it. So it's 4 minutes long instead of 2.5. But I think it's really good. Her words is actually, it's 6 minutes and 12 seconds. And it's also like, it's one of the, I don't know, some things I think I really enjoy, like I said, like the Sparrow Sleeps lullaby covers. And it's nice, like I also, at my after my brother's wedding, we had like a little get together at his apartment, and I took all the I took a playlist of Sparrow Sleep songs and played them over the Alexa speaker, and then it just quiet in the background, but it was like xylophone covers of pop punk songs. So I don't know, we enjoyed it. He enjoyed it. And I enjoyed it, and I don't think
it's perfect to put on the background.
I don't think his wife cared, but it's great to put on the background, yeah. And like I said, like I'll sleep to them a lot because it's just solid to put on in the background. And what's nice is I like to sleep to music with lyrics, but because then I can my mind races sometimes, and I can sing along to the song because I just know the song so well, and that way my brain power is going towards singing the lyrics instead of going towards like thinking of other things. So it works well for me. Yeah. So that is the Sparrow Sleeps cover. Now some of the alternate versions. So again, we're not going to play every part of all of these, but there was the bonus track alternate version, which was the sort of acoustic version that was on the deluxe edition second disc, and that's this here.
Gone are the glad hands and black holes and liars, the constant companions of noxious suppliers, carnivore kings, milking holiday sins, comas in cashmere. It went from no good to far.
So that has some piano obviously in there. I don't think I got it. Just the clip I grabbed didn't have any of the xylophone, but you really like the xylophone, right?
I like the xylophone. I love the piano. I really like the arrangement.
Yeah.
When the acoustic isn't just play this with guitars, but we'll bring in like the piano, or especially like the xylophones too.
Right. Yeah,
same but new.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they wanted to do an acoustic EP for this, like they did for Even If It Kills Me, and just either didn't have enough tracks. There's 4 alternate versions on that disc. So either they just didn't have enough tracks, or the studio didn't want them to.
Did they do in the Warped Tour? Is there a live version of track 9?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't think so. I think it was just Worker Bee, Life Less Ordinary, and Her Words. I think it's just the 3. Those are the 3 I've seen, but there might be somewhere. But let's. I
feel like I've seen some video of them in front of a crowd singing one of their songs with like more frequent profanity in it.
I don't know. But the Warped Tour. So they did the Warped Tour in front of the Truth About Drugs bus. Which is funny because Justin was sober, and I think he might have been the only one. So that's let me play some of that real quick here.
Now that my words don't quite do
So I really like how they don't just rearrange. So that one's just Justin and a guitar, and then Tony on the cajon, and Matt just doing the shaker. I forget what those are called if they have a name, which is like just shaking the.
I think it might just be shaker.
Might just be a shaker. Which is funny because Matt's probably the best musician in the band. Yeah, I really like how sometimes when they do acoustic versions, they'll like rearrange the vocals around the acoustic too. Mm-hmm. So like the now that my words don't quite do what they should, which is different from the now that my words don't quite do what they should. I really like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I could listen to. I mean, I listened to the. There's Even If It Kills Me with the album, and then all the acoustics right after.
Yeah.
I listened to that through 2 times in entirety in a row. Good enough for me.
What's also funny is I think there's definitely a version where because Matt does a lot of the backing vocals, like Matt and Josh and Tony do backing vocals, but like generally if it's just one backing vocal, it's Matt, presumably because he's the second best singer after Justin, or maybe the best singer. We haven't really heard a lot of him. He very well could be the fun fact, actually, if you didn't know this about Panic at the Disco, Panic at the Disco started as a Blink-182 cover band, and then Brendan Urie joined the band as the backup singer, and they were like, no, you're the better singer in the band, and they just made him the singer. So it could just be that the whole time Dave Grohl was not the lead singer of Nirvana, and he's the lead singer of Foo Fighters. So sometimes you just have a really good singer in the background, but he did very little harmonization on this specific acoustic version, which is funny because the camera keeps cutting to him just shaking. Hold on, I think I have one right here with him. There's like that's like the one point of harmony that he does on that version. But they did have one other arrangement. So 3 different acoustic arrangements of the same song. So the one on the album is full band. The Warped Tour one is just Justin, Matt, and Tony. And then there was just Justin, Matt, and Josh. And they did like a tour of Macy's or something. I don't know. I don't understand what this Macy's thing is. But there was
right after the break with the record label, did they get put on Macy's retainer?
But I don't. You could be right, actually, that it was right after the break of the record label. But because there's at least 2 Macy's shows, and then the MLB Fan Cave show, which is the one I'm going to play right now because it's best recording, obviously, because it aired in front of people. But I don't know. It's really just a weird thing that they did like a couple of Macy's, and I think there was a whole tour. I don't know if it was a tour of Macy's, obviously, but there was a whole tour because like in one of the Macy's videos, the one about the one that I told you about, the one where they play Everything Is All Right.
Yeah.
They I know, like, he's like, this is the last show this is the last show ever of this tour, so I can like talk to people and shake hands in the parking lot or whatever. So I know he like they definitely did a full tour. I don't know if like they did a full
those
tour.
Are just the people who recorded them and uploaded them. So
well, but there's like
how many shows do they play?
There's like 4 different uploads of the Minnesota one, like 4 different accounts with 4 different angles of the Minnesota one, and like 2 or 3 different angles of the Michigan one, and then no other ones. But they also, I know for a fact that on that same tour they played Yo Gabba Gabba live, which we'll talk about when we talk about Everything Is All Right, because they reworked Everything Is All Right. It's a terrible recording, but we got to talk about it because it's excellent. But so I know they played Yo Gabba Gabba live. So like, what were they doing? Like, because I don't think they were on the label anymore. When did they leave the label? I'm so confused about this. I've never been more confused about this.
So they went on the Macy's retainer.
Hold on, because Go came out in goes recorded June to October of 2011. They left the label when? Later that year. So Columbia dropped them in 2010. So they were touring the album that were on a label they were no longer on. I'm so confused. Anyway, so here's the MLB Fan Cam recording of the third acoustic what's the word I'm looking for? Arrangement of Worker Bee.
It's been a good year, a good new beginning. I'm through with the old school, so let's commence the winning. I've been a good little worker bee. I deserve a gold star.
So that's interesting as hell. It's like super chill. Right?
I'm thinking about the video where he's standing in front of what seems to be a small crowd in front of the bright room in like the MLB New York.
Yeah. Oh, also in the background, I definitely see what appears to be a Washington Nationals game going on. I see Mr. Met in one of those screens. Like, I don't know. I don't know what this was, what this MLB Fan Cave series was. I'm familiar with the MLB Fan Cave. I just like don't know. Yeah. I didn't know they played music at them. And like, I think this is the only MLB Fan Cave Motion City soundtrack video there is, and there's like an interview before it. There's so much going on here.
There's a sadness to that video.
Which is funny because there's bootleg recordings of them playing "Everything Is All Right," "Don't Call It a Comeback," "Fell in Love Without You," which I know they played "Everything Is All Right" elsewhere on this acoustic mini tour or whatever it was. I don't know about the rest, but I'd assume so. But the only official recorded one is Worker Bee. But I really like that arrangement, and that's the best recording of it, but there's the one of the Macy's recordings. It sounds super loungy. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it sounds like he's doing Sinatra. Like, not like he's, obviously he's not singing like Sinatra exactly, but like he's like doing in the cadence of Sinatra. Here, let me play it. I think you'll just see what I'm talking about.
I'm through with the old school, so let's commence the winning. I deserve a gold star.
Right? Like, and I think it's excellent. I think it's really, really cool. But it's just like, I don't know, like they're just doing weird stuff because the label dropped them. Like it's, I really, really like that. Like I deserve a gold star. Like it's like he's holding. Obviously, he doesn't drink, but it's like he's holding a fucking martini in his hand and like a cigar in the other hand. Like
it's a little bit of a bougie singing there.
Yeah, like
boozy, not bougie, boozy.
Boozy, yeah. Well, bougie also would be, I think, accurate. It's so different than I think any arrangement of anything. Like even the acoustics on the Even If It Kills Me, like none of them sound anything like that. And it's
get weird with it, absolutely.
Yeah, so like I was like, nobody covers Motion City Soundtrack like Motion City Soundtrack, because every like I said, every single video was just a straight through cover, and then Justin gets up like, I deserve a gold star. Like, whoa, what is this?
Where's the location of that one? Was that one of the Macy's ones?
This is one of the Macy's ones. Yeah. And there's like no tags to it.
I'm gonna do it.
Because there's a little bit of that in the MLB Fan Cave one, but like it's not like fully there, And maybe it's because there was like a big crowd, and he's like, not everybody knew who Most of the Soundtrack was. But if you're going to fucking see a band at a Macy's, like you better fucking like.
Is there some video? Is there some performance with the Macy's and just nobody's there?
because like it's different when you're like on a stage than like so this Macy's actually there is a stage, but the other Macy's they were literally just standing in front of a Macy's sign, and like there's microphones and there's speakers, but there's not a stage. There's no separation between Justin and everybody else, and it's like I don't. Fall Out Boy is playing stadiums, and most of the soundtrack played Macy's. Like, something's not right in the world.
Oh, man.
By the way, coincidentally, I Googled I didn't Google, I YouTubed Everything Is All Right Macy's to find the video, and for some reason, some band called All Right Like This did a cover of Sugar We're Going Down at a Macy's around the same time. So maybe this was a thing that Macy's was doing? I don't know, because Best Buy did this. I know Best Buy.
Showed up and started playing there.
It's like, did you hear that story about the punk rock band that trashed a Denny's last month?
Yeah, I feel like it's not the first time I've heard about. I've definitely seen this.
There was one like a year or two ago where there was like an abandoned Denny's that a punk band played, but like last month some kid booked a punk band for a Denny's, and Denny's like stuck him with like a $2,000 bill, like because they wrecked the place, so they stuck him with a bill, and like Green Day paid the bill or something like that. Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous. But so by the way, so I think on this same whatever this tour was, they also played Best Buy. But that was a thing that happened. I know that was a thing that happened, that like bands would just play at Best Buy. They did a fucking mall tour. What the fuck? I'm scrolling down, like they did because they did those two Macy's, and they did a Best Buy in Aurora, Illinois. They did a Best Buy in Bloomington, Minnesota at the Mall of America. Like, what is this tour?
I feel like playing Mall of America is a little bit elevated.
No, I'm not
much, but
I agree. And well, no, because that's the thing. It's one thing to just like play Mall of America, but it's not Mall of America. It's a Best Buy in Mall of America.
That's worse.
That's what I'm saying. But like also Jesse was there for that one. Jesse was there at the Best Buy, which I guess makes sense. They're from Minnesota. So maybe they just like, maybe, that's why they got the whole band for that one.
How much are they getting paid for these bookings? If you're already living in Minnesota and someone's like, well, what do you think?
I don't know. Well, there's when we get to an Eye on the Movie track, there's a whole show they did, like an acoustic set and like some tiny little what looks like a community college theater, and they did the entire album straight through like alternate versions, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know. But I know like some legitimately big bands played Best Buys around that time, like 2010, 10 years ago, whatever. That was kind of a thing. But it's still, oh no, this one was in 2010. This was in January 2010. So they were on the label. They were on Sony. Sony sent them to Best Buy. What?
What was it, like the band tour series? Do you know what the official name was?
I don't. I can't.
Best Buy band tour series. Let's see. Of course, it just shows me product.
Yeah.
If I add Motion City soundtrack to it,
I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I don't know. Saves the Day opening for Say Anything and Motion City. Saves the Day is a pretty big band. Anyway, I think that is all the covers and alternate versions. Do you have any final thoughts on Worker Bee?
Not on the covers, on the lyrics, sure, but not on the different covers.
On the song Worker Bee, do you have any final thoughts or anything else that we didn't cover yet?
Well, I know in the video he says that it's about, or the idea of it is that it's about New Year, and maybe this is a continuation of the Even If It Kills Me sobriety. But that the second paragraph in the song, it so much seems to me like he's talking about school. Like, gone are the glad hands, the black holes and liars. Glad hands being, phony suck-ups, black holes being idiots, liars being liars, constant companions, people you can't get away from because you're in school with them, obnoxious suppliers. I think that's just kind of a reiteration of like everybody around me sucks and I can't get away from them. Carnivore Kings milking holiday sins, which I love. I love how that's written. Sounds so much like bullying you for things you did over summer. Like that's what Carnivore Kings milking holiday sins. You screwed up over the summer, they're making fun of you for it.
Yeah.
And comas and cashmere just sounds to me like sleeping in glass.
That's interesting. Comas and cashmere, sleeping in class. I think it also could be, again, from the drug angle, just like actually like just a fucking crazy ass high.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I mean, obnoxious suppliers is like straight up, could clearly be drugs.
Of course, Jesus, how did I miss that?
Yeah. Like that one's. And then, because not only obnoxious suppliers, but if you take out the just noxious suppliers.
Yeah.
Like as sort of a play on words there. And constant companions like the drugs themselves, or the like the sort of the addiction is a constant companion.
Yeah. So what do you think about Carnivore Kings milking holiday sins?
That one I don't know. That's tough. I mean, holiday sins could just be like getting wasted over break or getting wasted over Christmas.
Yeah.
Carnivore Kings is a tougher one. But
did he ever deal with like? Did he ever deal much with like paparazzi, negative news attention, anything like that?
No, I mean like very little, if anything. But first of all, he lived in Minnesota. So, like, there's not really a lot of paparazzi there,
right,
except for outside Prince's house. And then, like, I don't think he ever got famous enough. Like,
I've been there. The only people outside are Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah. What, does Brad Pitt never come home?
What? Paisley Park? Brad Pitt?
Yeah, I don't, and then obviously the next verse is I think it works either way, and then they obviously did a lot. Although, I mean, Ad is very clearly about bullies. Like that's
mm-hmm.
the fucking song. You all need to go away, you motherfuckers.
The entire idea of the gold star being something you would be given in school.
Right. That's true. Yeah, I mean, I guess there's multiple interpretations. Actually, somebody on songmeanings.com said it was about Obama.
Yeah, I did see. Yeah, that's what too.
Which, like, the theory kind of makes sense, but also doesn't.
Yeah, that's exactly what I felt reading that. I'm like, well, this is a strat.
Hold on, let me see if I can find it. It's Obama. His gold star is his peace prize. It talks about how they believe Obama wasn't ready. Gone are the glad hands because it went from no good to fucked up and over. The recession. Barreling headfirst to fess up on wounds the South was not used to. He can't handle office, in their opinion. Which is just like kind of bonkers.
It's like some Illuminati shit.
Yeah. Like, first of all, the song was recorded, I think, like in April of 2009. So that's pretty ridiculous. But also, they have very actively said they've never written a political song except for Calling All Cops. Hello Helicopter. Hello Helicopter is the only political song. I mean, maybe they said that before this album, so it's possible there's a political song on this album, which is funny because I don't even think Hello Helicopter, like, now that, like, when I think about it in that context, I realize that. But I always felt like the more political lyric on that album was in This Is For Real. It's chaos in the courthouse and the left side's all upset because the right side wants a summer home and knows we can't afford it. Like, that seems overtly political.
Like it's not even like subtle. It's
it seems overtly political. And they're like, nope.
Over the head feels like it's I just feel it feels very straightforward.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, that's a different episode and a different song, so we'll talk about that another time. Any lingering thoughts on Worker Bee?
I like the song, but the poll in the subreddit did not like the song.
Yeah. So the Motion City Soundtrack subreddit did their elimination polls recently.
It was one of their least favorites.
I think they like every song. But where did it finish? It finished 8th out of 12 on the album, which surprises me because I was looking at that earlier too, and I was like, there's definitely. I'd probably put it above. I'd probably put it 5th, maybe. I don't know. It's tough. They also put Everything Is All Right 4th on that album, which is very interesting because, I mean, I kind of agree. It's probably my 4th favorite song on that album.
They like Time Turned Fragile
because it's the best song.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay. I guess that's gonna do it then for our first episode. We have a Twitter account. It's at Motion City Pod, I think. Because I learned why Motion City Soundtrack's Twitter account isn't at Motion City Soundtrack. It's because it's too many letters. Because Motion City Podcast is also too many letters, and somebody already has at Motion City. And he uses it too. So, oh well. Hold on. Somebody I follow follows at Motion City. What? I'm going to come back to that later. I am at Kuhan on Twitter. Jake is at XFIP-.
That's Jake, the word minus.
The word minus, yes. Symbol. I don't think you can put a dash in Twitter accounts.
XFIP was taken.
What else? We don't have a Patreon yet, but if anybody listens to this show and says they want to give us money, let us know and I'll make a Patreon. I haven't made an Instagram yet, but I'll probably make it Motion City Pod, and I think that's it. I'm not gonna deal with all the other social medias. Oh, we should probably have an email address. We'll figure that out. We might have an email address at some point in the future.
DM us on Twitter in the meantime.
Yeah, hit us up on Twitter. That'll do it for the episode. Until next time, that's it. I don't know. I don't have it until next time. Bye.
Bye.